I used to live in this little town south of here called Coleman. You know Coleman.
I know Coleman, nice little town.
Yeah, it's beautiful. There was this little deli. I'm not going to say the name of the deli, but there's this little deli that had a reputation of being a quaint little spot, really cool place. It was just kind of like the places the moms would meet. You know, you're at lunch, you would just go get a quick bite, no big deal. And you'd go up and you'd order, and the lady would be like, what would you like? And you just kind of tell her, and you're like, what's the one with the, the pineapple? What's that one? And she'd be, oh yeah, you want the Aloha. Sure. And so you'd write it down. You'd get your food. Trivial Pursuit cards sitting on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like a little, not a diner, it's just like a little deli.
A little deli. Yeah, there was one of those in Grand Island, Nebraska. It was called Sutter Deli. It was right on the railroad tracks. So all the sandwiches were named after different railroad things, railroad lines or cars or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just very quaint. Lots of like dried leaves and flowers, decor, kind of earth-tony, neutral, just a very nice place. I liked it there, but it was very much like a mom's go and hang out. The Purple Hat Club.
Yeah.
They would meet at that deli, and it was delicious. So I think I can kind of picture where this would fit.
This place that you're talking about that I've never been, what are some kind of the things that it makes you feel? Like, why do you go there? Is it because the food's so awesome, or like, why do you go to that place?
Well, the food really was very good, but it's the kind of food anybody could probably make. You know, they do panini, so they got the little machine, and you put it in the
George Foreman grill.
Panini grill, and you squish it shut, and you got probably chicken breast from Sam's or something. I don't know. But it tasted good, and it was pleasant. The recipes, the flavor combinations were good, but the people were just so dang nice, and the vibe and the feel of the place was so pleasant. It's located in a place that made sense. And so I started going in there. I asked if we could put some barbecue on a sandwich one time. I really like chicken, bacon, cheese, and barbecue sandwiches with clever bread. I had that yesterday at a deli you and I went to.
Yeah.
Delicious. And so I asked them if they would do that, and they did. And then every time I came in, they'd be like, hey, you're the guy. And we came up with some railroad name for that sandwich. I don't remember what it was.
Just to be funny.
Yeah. And eventually they're like, we're just putting that on the menu.
Really?
That's a great sandwich. We're just going to stick with the name. And one day, the name of my little sandwich just appears there on the menu, and it's still there.
What's the name of the sandwich?
I don't remember. I don't remember what they called it, but yeah. I did back then, and it was great. And I don't remember because I never had to order it, because I'd walk in and they'd be like, hey, the guy with the thing, here's your sandwich. And it was just wonderful. It was just a great experience every time. Clean, pleasant, friendly, very personable. I loved it. I miss that restaurant.
This place, I loved it. They moved. They went to a different location.
Okay.
And so I went to the new location, and I went in and I got my sandwich. It was great. Everything's great. It took them a while to open. And then I was in Coleman recently for something, just a random, like, run in, do an errand, then leave kind of thing. And it's like, oh man, I'm gonna get that sandwich I like. First of all, I mean, I'm alone. Usually I go with somebody to this place, but I'll just go knock it out. So I went over there and I walked in, and instantly everything was different. I don't know how to describe this, and this might be the old man in me, but as soon as I walked in, I felt strange. And I looked around, and I looked to the right, and there's a bar, like a bar with a bunch of alcohol on the wall. You know, like, not just like a...
In the same deli?
Yeah. Not like a kind of bar where you've got beers on tap and, you know, you got the mugs hanging up. Or it was like a neon sign, like, we're a bar, you know? And then there were TVs on the wall now, and they're all playing sports.
Okay.
And then it's the kind of bar where they display the alcohol. Like, you have like bottles of whiskey, you know, like a young college student might display the empty alcohol bottles on their wall that they've
that they've conquered.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of had that vibe to it.
Huh.
And I was looking around, I was like, what's happening? I remember the Trivial Pursuit cards on the table, you know? And so I look around, I was like, wait, they still have the bicycle on the wall. They still have the road signs on, you know, kind of the hodgepodge mishmash kind of decor. They still have all that stuff, you know, like baskets on the wall and like silly things. But then they've got the bar. I'm not against alcohol or anything like that. I mean, I think in moderation, it can be okay. I don't know. It was just weird. So I went up to order my sandwich, and I forgot the name of the Aloha, and I was like, so what's the, you've got this one sandwich with it's got like an orange roll, not an orange roll, it's like an onion roll, and it's got like, I don't know, it's got turkey, and it's got pineapple. What's that called? And the lady goes, what? She looks at me, she just goes, what? I was like, the sandwich, it's got the one with the pineapple. She's like, what are you talking about? Like the way she just interacted with me was like, why are you even here?
How very not Southern.
Yeah, I know. I was
Seriously, I haven't had a lot of interactions like that. I've had interactions like that in other parts of the country, but not here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a bad day. And then there was an older lady that was walking past, and she said, what, hun? She said, he wants something with pineapple. Oh, the Aloha. You want the Aloha. I was like, yes, ma'am, the Aloha. Okay. And then turn around and the new person took the order.
Okay.
I just remember thinking, okay, I've been here maybe 120 seconds. Something's different.
Huh.
Something has changed. This place has lost its soul.
That's a profound judgment after 120 seconds.
It was true. The place as I remembered it, and this may be just, again, me getting old, but I have observed this several times where you go to a place, and it's not just like I don't like change kind of things. You know, people come to this location not just for the sandwich they like, not just for, they come here because it makes them feel a certain way. And then new management comes in or whatever. There's another place where it's a store. It's a really cool store. I'm not going to tell you where this is or whatever, but it's like an outdoor store. You go in here, and this is like one of the first places I saw the Cool brand, Kuhl.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
This would be a place you'd go and you'd buy nice flannels. Like we've talked about muskox flannels. Like I could imagine those flannels being sold in this store.
Okay.
Like it's a place that they sell grills in the back. And then in the back right corner, they had like the old hardware section. In that location, they would sell Boy Scout badges. They would sell hatchets. They would sell golf discs.
I can picture this place. So it's not just your trendy, upscale outdoors store for the equivalent of people who buy an SUV to drive it around town, but it's an SUV. This is more like a Jeep store, metaphorically. This is for people who actually use the supplies and go out and do outdoor things and teach their kids outdoor things. I mean, if they got hatchets and actual supplies, this is real.
But the purpose of the store was not the hatchets.
Okay.
The hatchets were there so that you knew hatchets were there. You could buy a machete at this place, but you could also buy the new Southern Marsh t-shirt that the ladies like. You could also buy the new Vera Bradley purse. I know the name of this because it looks like a quilt. And I think the Vera Bradley purse, and it's a Southern lady thing. I think it looks really cool. It reminds me of grandma and like soft things. And
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's just a really interesting thing. So this was a place you would go. You would kind of trick yourself into being like, oh, I'm going to go look at the old hardware store. They have like in the back of the store, they have these bees. They have a beehive with plexiglass on it, and the bees are coming from outside, and they're building the beehive in the see-through beehive, and you can look at it.
Yeah, cool.
It's really neat. And they have a little bicycle shop in the back. And so I was in this place with my dad recently, and I'm like, hey, we've got 20 minutes to kill. You want to run over to that store? And he's like, yeah, let's go over there. And we walked in the store, which is beautiful. It's beautiful. As soon as we opened the door, both of us went, oh, there's this big aisle that goes straight to the back of the store where they used to have like this old like craft beer section and grilling and hardware. It was just beautiful. Now it's just one big wall of shoes. And then on each side, left and right, you got a bunch of clothes. And Dad and I looked at each other and we looked back and we're like, we thought we'd gone through a time warp. We're like, this is the store we thought it was. And we looked, and the guy at the back that was sitting there by the shoes, he looked at us with this knowing look. And I was like, what, do we just leave now? Or do we just, and so we walked to the back and we said, hey, and I'm just going to do it. I was like, where's the bees at? Like where, there's a little bee thing. He said, oh yeah. We've done some changes. And I said, okay. He said, yeah, we've, when the store sold last year, the new owners decided that we were going to bring our shoes front and center a little bit more and kind of put that out there so that, we could kind of show these a little bit more. And I was just thinking, whoa, there was a drawer of fly fishing supplies over there that I was never going to buy anything out of that drawer, but I looked at it every time.
Yeah.
Over there were all kinds of accessories for things I could bolt onto my bicycle that I was never going to buy, but it contributed to the vibe of the store. And I thought to myself, again, this place has lost its soul. There's this thing that happens, and I'm kind of asking you if I'm being unreasonable here, but there's this thing that happens when a place is built, and it's built with love, and it's built with care, and somebody puts their soul into it. What do we want this place to be? Well, I just kind of want a place where Ethel and Gertrude can come hang out, and they can just talk about their grandkids, and they can get a sandwich. And what's that ramen noodle salad you have? You crush up the ramen noodles, and it's crunchy, the crunchy salad. We'll have that as a side item. I don't know if people like it, but we'll sell it. That's how, you know what I mean? That's how the place is built.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of goes through the natural progression, and the people that built the place leave. And then the next group comes in. This is not a generational thing. I've seen this happen with new places. I've seen this happen with old places. And then suddenly, whatever that is, that vibe that the place puts off, the new person that comes in, the change in management or whatever it is, they totally don't get it. They don't get that Destin came to this store to look at the Boy Scout badges. He came here to look at that fancy German hatchet. And every once in a while I would buy one, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's almost like the thought we had, or we were talking about a few times back, where we were talking about this, not averted vision, but this averted memory. Like you're trying to pull a memory, and so you kind of look sideways to something.
Yeah.
I used to go to these places and buy things I didn't need because of the way it made me feel when I went in the store.
Yeah,
Okay?
you want an excuse to be there.
Yes.
And have this be a third place for you. And since what happens at this third place is that you buy things, well, even if you don't need something, if you want to feel that third place in your life, I guess you're just going to buy something, whether you need it or not. That's your ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I recognized when I walked in this deli and I saw the bar, I was like, this is a mismatch. And the music that they were playing was awful. I mean, it was just aggressive.
Me So Horny by Two Live Crew on repeat.
Kind of things like that. Like,
oh, jeepers.
I mean, it was the music was very, very loud, so you couldn't think and you couldn't talk. And that's why people went there, was to think and talk.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't anymore. And so I remember I looked around and I saw some people meeting there. I saw a mother with her small children, and she was eating. And I remember thinking, when we lived here, we would do that, but I bet that mom's not going to come back because of the way she's feeling right now. And I just looked around and I was like, they don't know, but the end is near. Like the people that own this establishment, they don't know they've killed it, but they have. And at this point, the clock's ticking. They have to do one of two things. They either have to reclaim their soul, the company's soul or the establishment's soul, or they have to totally change. And both are options. But what is going to happen is until they figure out what exactly they're going for, it's going to crash and burn. And you can see it like immediately. Do I sound crazy?
I can't think of very many times in the history of this program that you have talked for 16 minutes. Of all the topics that we have ever covered that I would imagine would stoke your passions and bring things to the forefront, such that you would go for 16 minutes.
It's a good sandwich, dude.
This wouldn't have been the one. Now you might be feeling like, oh, I'm getting criticized here. No, I think first of all, my first observation is it's just a very interesting data point, and it helps me understand that you are really feeling something about this reality, which raises for me two questions. One, the one you're asking, am I crazy? Is there something to this? Two, why? Why is this drawing that out of you? Because I'm listening to you talk. My answer to question number one is no, I do not think you're crazy. But I would caveat that by saying I'm also not sure you're totally seeing it right. To me, what you're describing doesn't sound like old man complaining. It doesn't sound like, I'm not even sure it's totally a fair critique. I'd have to go see the places. To me, it sounds like grief. I know that's odd, but you sound...
Oh, totally.
You sound like you're grieving the passage of institutions that have meant something for you and that tell a certain story that you believe in and that you like. You sound like you're grieving the passage of things from your youth that keep you connected to things that your dad and your grandpa were connected to in your community. And you sound like the dominant emotional motif of the first half of Return of the King, the third book in the Lord of the Rings series, where the big theme of that movement of Tolkien's story is the passing of a bygone age, the end of the Rohirrim, the end of beautiful things. And there is a next thing ahead of us, and we're going to redeem it, and we're going to win. But first, let there be violins and grief over the passage of the old age. That's really what I'm hearing on you. And I think that's what it conjures in me as I try to really attentively listen between the lines to what you're saying. I don't think you have 17 minutes of monologue in you over, I just don't care for the new branding on this place. I don't think that strikes a chord with you enough for it to just matter to rise to that level. But the passing of an old way that you think has some nobility and purity and simplicity and truth in it, virtues you highly value, yeah, I think that, and justifiably so, could prompt 17 minutes of musing and reflection and trying to work that out and chew it through. And I think that's what's going on.
Well, I'm going to draw a parallel here.
Okay.
And I think it's interesting because there is a theme as to what kills this vibe, or I don't know, what I'm calling soul, which might not be a fair way of saying it, but
no, I like that.
There's this authenticity and this soul that is in the establishment before what I think might be market pressure. And maybe this is one of the parts of capitalism that's a hard pill to swallow, where, hey, we had to make some changes because we had a higher profit margin on our shoes. Therefore, we had to put the shoes front and center so we could sell more shoes. And we just needed the space, so we got rid of the fly fishing drawer. And so these were just decisions we needed to make.
Yeah.
We didn't have, the craft beer stuff was interesting, but, to be honest, Destin, you never bought one. So you might buy a shoe, though. So there are market pressures that make these things happen. Likewise, and here's the parallel, I recently was talking to an individual that she just started a YouTube channel a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Or some type of social media presence. But in her case, it was a YouTube channel. But I see this pattern repeat often. So this person started her thing. Not going to tell you what the channel is. It's a lady that you wouldn't think this lady would have a YouTube channel. She's got a couple kids out of the house. She's got one more that I think is, I think she has one more that's about to leave the house. She's in a different state. I met her recently. And we were talking about some other business, and she brought up her YouTube channel. She's like, oh, I'm really kind of glad to talk to you because you have a YouTube channel and I have a YouTube channel. I want to ask you some questions. And so we started talking about it. And what I discovered is she started making these crafts. Like she was doing these DIY craft things that were really interesting to her. And they were lovely and they were fun. And she really enjoyed it. And people really dug the fact that she really enjoyed it. And they started like leaning in on it, and they were like, hey, this is cool. And they would check in with every video. And pretty soon, she didn't really plan it this way because it was just like her throwaway fun thing. She started getting a small following.
I can see where this is headed.
Yeah. And so she got this following, and pretty soon she's like, whoa, because of the way she structured her thing between, all the different revenue streams that she came up with, she found a way to come up with what she calls play money. This is just our play money. Then I noticed that, and so this is what she wanted to talk about. She's like, yeah, I'm doing these things and these seem to perform better. But when I do this, people like it, but it doesn't get the numbers. And so in order to maintain the cadence and the level of play money that we want, I have to do this many a month and I have to blah, blah, blah. And so we had this big discussion. I just sat there, and while she's talking to me, we were physically sitting next to each other at a table. And while she was, it was like, hey, I got 30 minutes. You want to talk about your YouTube channel? And so we did it. And she had a list she prepared, and she was talking to me about it. And I said, why do you do this? She's like, well, and she paused. And you could tell that there was an answer to that 6 months ago that's different from the answer now. The tail kind of starts wagging the dog. And so there was this moment where I think her YouTube channel lost its soul, but she wasn't far enough gone where she could not reclaim that. You know what I'm saying? I know what I just said, and I know this might be weird for me to say because I started making videos of my daughter weed eating the yard, and that's funny because she was 9 months old, and I was learning how to do camera tricks, like, oh, I'm holding her up, and she's got goggles on, and I'm wiggling her back and forth, and the camera's shot from below, so it looks like she's operating a weed eater. So I switched to the other camera, and it's a weed eater.
There we go.
The reason it's funny is because she's a baby.
Yeah. They can't run weed eaters.
They can't. That's why that's
it's a
funny.
Safety. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so I started there, and then, pretty soon, I don't know what happened, but we're breaking the sound barrier in an F-16. How that happened, I don't know. So the question is, if you're doing a thing and you love it and it's fun, how do you scale, or how do you grow, or how do you change over time? I think we need a better word than losing your soul, but how do you change and grow in a way without losing, the thing that you originally had, that initial spark, the authenticity, the trueness of who you are?
Yeah.
Because you and I both know how to do it. I don't know that we could articulate this, but we know the videos that could win the internet.
Oh, yeah. But it's like that conversation that we had about winning and losing and gunfighting. Winning's a brand, losing's a brand, killing's a brand. And most of the videos that would just easily win the internet, you make those videos, that's a brand. So you get your clicks and your little hearts and likes and all those little strokes or whatever, get a few bucks in YouTube AdSense money that appears in your account. But now you're that forever, and that was your face, and that was your name, and you don't get to fire another bullet. That's you. So yeah, there's stuff you can do, but the tax is your soul.
Hey, this episode of No Dumb Questions is brought to you by Stamps.com.
Stamps.com is going to help us send out the stickers that people don't know about yet.
Booyah!
That's my favorite thing about Stamps.com. We're going to send stickers to the patrons, and it's going to be amazing. We can't talk too much about it, but what I will say is there's a Barnacles sticker, and then there's a Testicles sticker.
Yep. Yeah, there were a few iterations of those, but we landed on the ones I'm pretty sure are right.
Yeah, I think so. And that's going to go to the patrons, and it's going to be amazing. And we're going to send them out with Stamps.com. Get huge carrier discounts up to 89% off USPS and UPS rates to help your bottom line.
Yep, here we go. Rapid fire bullet point cool things about Stamps.com. With Stamps.com, all you need is a computer and a printer, and they send you a scale, so you get everything you need to get started. And you can take orders on the go. It's easier than ever with the Stamps.com mobile app, which is pretty sweet. We're going to be using that to send out the aforementioned stickers.
Yep.
You need a package pickup. You can easily schedule that through Stamps.com as well. And if you sell products online, Stamps.com seamlessly connects with every major marketplace and shopping cart. It looks like they kind of thought of all the things. If you're somebody who sends things from home, this pretty much covers it all.
Yep. Here are the words. Give your business the gift of Stamps.com so your mailing and shipping is covered this holiday season. Sign up with promo code IndieQ for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the page, and enter the code IndieQ.
Thanks, Stamps.com, for supporting the program, and thanks all of you for supporting the sponsors.
There's ways to handle this. Like, for example, on YouTube, there's this thing that happens where they gamify it. They put this goal in front of you. They say, hey, if you get this many subscribers, you're going to get a plaque that you can put on your wall, a play button. It's
someday.
A certain color. Are you feeling that pressure now?
No, I finally got one.
Yeah?
But it was like 18 months before I crossed whatever silly threshold. That was a long time before that plaque showed up.
100,000 subscribers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And then it showed up and I was like, huh.
Did you put it on your wall?
No.
You mean it's not behind you on the wall in every single video you record?
Or like right in front of where my face would be?
Yeah.
Between me and the camera? No. It's behind, I can tell you where it is. It's on a shelf behind, leaning up against the wall, a giant stack of Bibles that a couple companies sent me to review. Hey, check out our Bibles. You can color in this one. Okay.
That is pretty rad.
I'll probably get to that later. But
so there's this thing that happens. There's a next carrot. The carrot's being dangled out in front of you, and you're supposed to move towards the carrot. You have to grow. That's what we're taught, right? Well, if your company's not growing,
you're dying.
Yeah. So there's a carrot out there, and you got to go to that carrot. And so in the YouTube world, I think YouTube is very clever because they use the algorithm to keep people engaged with videos, but they also use the algorithm to keep creators making videos.
Yes, that's the part people don't catch.
Yeah, there's this manipulation that happens. Like, if I were to pull up here on this here telephone,
because YouTube is a company that doesn't make its product.
They don't.
No.
If you scroll through and you look at your analytics or whatever in the YouTube Studio app, here, I'm just going to read this. You see this? Your weekly recap is here. When I log into this thing, there's a button, and I click that button. Wow, this number of people tuned into you.
I'm going to tell you, that is larger than the number over here on my phone. Good job. You had a very good week.
Comparison is the robber of joy.
Nope, it isn't in this case because I feel delighted with what I'm doing and delighted with what you're doing. I'm not saying that to say, woe is me. I'm saying that to say, nice job, man. You made stuff people like. That's cool.
Hey, thanks.
You're welcome.
Here's how people found you. Tells you how. This is what they watched. Tells you the things. People didn't just watch. They reached out. These are the numbers that people shared, commented. This is how much you made this week. That's the amount of money that Smarter Every Day made this week. Let's play a game.
We should go have a sandwich.
Yeah, we should do that. Where would you like to have a sandwich?
It would need to be an affordable sandwich.
There's
not a lot in that AdSense.
There's not. Let's play a game. What's the second most popular location of the viewers you're watching from? So they're gamifying this whole thing so that I can think about the people that are focusing on me, right?
Ooh, wow, that's a lot of layers.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So let's play a game. What's the second most popular location people are watching Smarter Every Day from? Do you think it's United States, India, or United Kingdom?
Toilet.
That is the correct. No, that's probably the first.
That's got to be number one.
Yeah, yeah. So
number two.
India or United Kingdom? What do you think?
It's United Kingdom.
Okay, yeah. So click in the United Kingdom. Wrong. India.
Oh.
So I have that in my mind now. Oh, this is where, there's people in India watching Smarter Every Day. Maybe I should do something to appeal to the people of India because I want more people to watch me, right? You see what they just did? It's very subtle. Check back next week. Peace sign, heart emoji. Have a good week. Also, check back in next week to see how you did, right? The temptation here is to optimize what I'm doing to create more. I want more in my little kingdom, right? That's the temptation that this thing is pushing me towards. And I think, so I submit this for your consideration, I think that all these places that have this neat little vibe to them, at some point they are tempted to go after something else. If you're doing $250,000 in revenue at this sandwich shop, if you changed it and you sold this, I bet you could get $350,000 in revenue.
What if we did sandwiches and marijuana?
Hey, you're kind of joking.
Am I?
Is that a thing that's happening?
Do you have legalization here?
I don't know.
I mean, because in South Dakota, we're really starting to see we sell this and weed.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, and in Colorado, it's become comical. I mean, you'll drive down streets in a mountain town and be like, do we actually need 3 dispensaries within a baseball throw of each other on one downtown block? Like, come on. It starts to feel like when I go to Zambia and there are 100 little roadside stands and everyone sells oversized carved spoons. It's the only product? What are we doing here? Come on. This feels like a bubble that might burst sometime soon. So no, there are, of course, all sorts of clowny, comical things, temptations, as you put it, that are sitting out there that people can chase after. And that exists in church. There are always ways to grow a church, to grow a school, to grow a museum, all institutions that theoretically exist for altruistic reasons, and all of which really bastardize and cheapen the product. Libraries, I think, would fall in that same category. They're dumb, cheap things that you can do to either make it look to the outside world like growth is happening, exciting things are occurring at institution X, or to actually get whatever metric you care about. Maybe if you're a church, it's number of attenders. Maybe if you're a museum, it's enough clout to get things on loan for certain periods of time or to be in a certain echelon, whatever it might be. There are all kinds of cheap ways to get there. And so in that regard, I think I can understand a little better what you're saying in terms of the loss of soul. But I don't know that I would apply the term temptation to a general desire for growth. I think you've made strategic growth decisions throughout your internet career. And for the most part, I mean, I know you pretty dang well. You're pretty honest with the inner thoughts and motivations. You invite a few people in your life to be a check, a sounding board on your motivations. You have wanted to make good things and to see your thing thrive, but it's never really come off like temptation. I mean, you've passed on, in my opinion, the cheap, tacky growth opportunities, but you've grabbed on to other sensible opportunities that are still growth opportunities. But generally speaking, it seems like you've got a set of values where if you pursue growth or positive outcomes for things you're working on through these means, that would be a compromise to your values and how you view yourself, and it'd be weird, and it would affect you negatively as a human. But if you achieve growth and improvement through these other means that are in keeping with your values, well, whether it works or not, then you would be at peace with that. That is how I've seen you approach it. Is that fair?
I think so.
Okay. So then we think about these two examples that you brought up at these two stores, and we go back to where we started here. What are they thinking? I don't know. Just listening to you describe it, to me, it sounds like the deli just doesn't have a good plan. To me, it sounds like what happened there is they saw a couple other restaurants in town, and they're like, oh, well, Kelly's added a bar, and they got more people now. People seem to like the bar. We should add a bar. That's not giving in to temptation. It's just not shrewd. It's just not understanding semiotics. It's not getting that stuff means stuff and understanding what you have and why it works, and understanding why what someone else has and why it works couldn't be blended with your thing. To me, it just sounds like not shrewdness, not getting itness, more than trying to grab the golden ring and Icarusing too close to the sun and paying the consequences for that. It just sounds clumsy and ham-fisted and like a brand catastrophe, more than like some kind of reflection of succumbing to temptation, to use your earlier language. The sports store, when I hear about that, my mind goes to, well, why did it get sold?
I think the person retired.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then why didn't his kids want it?
I don't know. Maybe there weren't kids. I don't know. I don't know the family.
Yeah. I don't know either. But my brain goes there. And I think, well, what that sounds like is somebody who loved the values of yesteryear that I happen to really resonate with. And the store was a reflection of that, but it was not financially sustainable. And so there's an opportunity here at the end of somebody's career to sell this, acknowledging that it's going to change, but we could still trade on the brand equity that has been built here to make something that the market will sustain now. I might like the parameters of the old version of the market better than the new one, but we're kind of getting new life out of this thing when the reality is one day you just would have driven by and it would have closed otherwise.
Yes, that's true.
I don't like it, but to me, that's an indictment of a larger thing. I cannot picture the ongoing economic viability of a store like the one you described, given the market conditions now, competition online, all of the other stores that have moved into this part of the world where you live. I don't even live here. And I know 4 other stores that I would think of first that sell the same kind of products and do the same kind of stuff in this area. I just would never think to go to the store that you're even describing, even though it sounds like something I would like. And so I think what happens is that sometimes, yes, you're right. Stuff loses its soul. You lose your way. You forget what made this thing awesome. And you make a series of small compromises informed by the market. You're like, all right, if I push this button, I get good results. But you don't think about the feedback loop that creates. Every time you push that button, it's not just you doing something that affects others. The market is doing something that reads back on you. and that affects and changes you. It sounds like the Deli might be in that boat. Again, I haven't seen it.
Don't know.
Yeah, like they're going out and I use this analogy a lot, but tinkering with the dark magic, drawing and summoning from different elements they don't understand to try to bring that in and harness it for the growth of their thing. That's a monkey's paw. Nope, it actually, that dark magic ended up controlling you. It messed with you. Okay, that happens. The other one, it just sounds like it aged out. It just sounds like it timed out. And I grieve with you the passage of stores like that I love, that tell a different story about a different time. I do think we have lost something. And I think that our cell phones and our connectedness and our interneting and our international shipping and all these things that make things cheap and affordable and quickly accessible and efficient and effective, those render things like that obsolete. And there's a price that we pay. There is a trade-off for this age that we have built together and that we want. So I suppose what I'm saying is, I sense grief in what you're saying. I sense that as being the underlying thing, because the case you made for they lost their soul is not the strongest case I've ever heard you make, respectfully.
Okay.
What I hear is emotion, an honest emotion, a controlled emotion, not one that is dictating things to you. But what I hear is sadness that those places don't make sense anymore, and that what makes more sense is something that just sort of looks homogeneous and typical. I grieve it when I look at the fat back end, the butts of cars. Every single car is a full diaper, bubble-butted, safety, hideous blight on the road. Every car is the same car. You should just roll them all into one name and put every logo on every car. Because of this, I mean, the safety features and the market took all creativity out of automobile design and jammed it into a crossover SUV with a big full diaper butt.
I like it. That's a really good description. It's interesting.
They're all the same. So your Deli used to be awesome. The market forces are like, well, it's a sports bar, Barracutessen, lunch, diner, barbecue joint now. Because everything
with
is.
weed.
Yeah, because they're and casinos. Because everything is.
And casinos.
And your sports store, when you described it, you know what it sounded like to me?
What?
A sports store.
Yeah?
Yeah, well, that's where you put the shoes in a sports store. You put them on that wall, so you walk in and you see the shoes, because that's the reusable thing that everybody's always in the market for. So that's what you want to see when you walk in.
Okay.
And we just ran the data. That's what happens. So the full diaper, awful, modern American vehicle thing, that phenomenon is happening in every single market niche. And I think you just ran into two of them, and I think you're right in this regard. It is soulless. It is hollow. It is vacuous. There is no artistry to it. It feels sterile and safe and sanitized and overly supervised. And that is not the result just of individuals being silly and giving into temptation, nor just of the market forcing everybody to do a thing. Rather, it's both of those things, plus the influence of state and local regulations, statutes, safety features, or safety requirements. All of those things work together to steer human behavior toward things that I just frankly find more boring than what they looked like a generation ago.
Yeah, and I think in some cases, and I try to think about this with the things I do, in some cases it's smart, I think, to push against the market a little bit, because when you do that, you're like, okay, yeah, I totally see that I could probably make more money if I make a supersonic gerbil video. Totally see that. That would be amazing, right?
Is that in, I mean,
I could do that. Yeah. Not going to do it.
Baseball cannon?
Yeah, exactly. That would be, I've thought about little glass, the thumbnail's easy, right? There's a helmet.
Yeah.
He's wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
He's got little bitty goggles.
Of course he does.
Little gerbil goggles on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like he's like, yeah.
I'm trying to be dignified.
His arms are not out in front. No. They're beside him.
What three colors are on his cape?
Oh, it's red, blue, and yellow. Exactly, right? Right? That's what the market wants.
And is he passing through multiple baseball gloves?
So, I mean, I already know if I wanted to make a video and win the internet, like I know the video.
Oh gosh.
But that's not would be awesome though.
So bad.
Do you want me to tell you the other video that would work? That we're going to have to beep out because the fact that I utter this into a microphone, if somebody were to hear that, this video would go be made. Let me tell you what this is. This is just for you and Tina. You ready?
Okay, yes.
How can you not click that?
No, I want it. I have to know.
Right?
Yep.
Have to know.
Yeah, you would win.
I would win the internet.
Yes.
That's a 200 million view video.
Easily.
Yeah. Right?
Yes.
Should I make that? No, I shouldn't. Why?
Because then you're forever guy.
Right.
That's you.
Right.
And maybe a little bit your kids and
Right.
your name.
Right.
Forever.
Can't do that.
No.
Can't give up your soul just to make the quick grab for the market. So this was just a thing that I wanted to bring to you and just have a short conversation. It's something I noticed, and it's something I kind of feel the siren song, the pull. You know, I can do these things as well. I know the little tweaks I can make to just boost the numbers. But I think taking the strategic L in many cases is smart because you play the long game. It's not going to, make my family rich or anything like that. We're not going to end up with generational wealth as a result of the video of almost combined the two videos.
You almost did. Wow.
That would.
Whoa. No, I can't say any of the jokes.
You stop right
Okay.
now. One interesting thing, one last thing I'll have here, and just I'll let you react to this, and this will be how we can end this episode.
All right.
But one thing that I also note is that my ability to go to this deli and then not go to it for 6 months and then go back to it, that fact alone allows me to see change more drastically. Like you see a kid and you don't see him for a long time, and then you see him again, you're like, whoa, that kid got taller. Like the fact that I can see this business establishment change so drastically over a 6-month time frame because I've only been there twice, that means something too. And so the question is, in the introspective way, what can I not see on myself? Like what changes am I making where I am like, oh, I'm changing. Destin, you're different than you were. I remember when you've seen these comments. I remember when you used to be like this and now you're like this. What changed? You can see those comments every once in a while, and that's interesting. And so my point is, I'm exposing my soft underbelly here and saying, I'm not all-knowing about myself. To know yourself is very, very difficult. So I'm just saying, I'm probably doing this too. I just don't know how. And how can I fight against that? And should I fight against that? And I'll leave it there. I'll see what you have to say.
Change can be good, change can be bad, but change always is. Nothing is staying as it is, ever, ever, ever. So sometimes in these kind of conversations, there's this illusion of like, well, you were like this when you were 28 and it was really good. And I kind of, well, hold on a minute. Why are we picking arbitrary points in the past to be like, that's how the thing ought to be? We're always trying to get back to that. As soon as you're doing we want to get back to, I think you're playing a losing game. There is no going back to anything. There's only going forward, and you can take the best elements of things from the past, and going forward might look a lot like something from the past. It might need to. It might not. Maybe the same values are there, but how they actually visibly manifest are different. Times change. Stuff means stuff. We age. We constantly grieve the passage of moments. So this is a difficult equation to even run. Change just is. You got to lean into that. But at the same time, I think everybody knows that at some deep level, and I think everybody wants the change that is inevitable to be good, to be reflective of something good, of a good direction. And I bet the people at that deli were trying. I mean, this is what I think happened. They felt the world changing. COVID came and went. A couple of really weird presidencies came and went, and the world feels a little bit shook up. Some stuff changed in their family. They saw some competitors come and go. No outsider really cares about whether this little restaurant's doing better than this little restaurant, but it kind of got in their head a little bit, stuck with them. Probably got some narratives about the community and which direction, this district of the town is going and this district, stuff that other people don't really notice or care about, but that they think about a lot in their little circle. They get inside their head for a while. They feel the pressures of change. And so they're like, we got to do something. So they go and do something. The plan's not fully formed. It happens. Sometimes all of us, for reasons other people don't know, feel the pressure to pull the trigger on a change when the game plan isn't done baking yet. But you got to do it. Circumstances dictate, I got to do it. And then what we trot out isn't our best look. It's not fully formed. There's arrested development there, and it's not ready for prime time. That's okay. I would guess that the people at that deli had some relatively silly, individually perceived psychological pressures that they put on themselves. I would guess there were also some very real external pressures, and the timeline dictated that they just do something. And what you got was not their A game. And maybe the things that caused them to get it right the first time around will cause them to find their way again this time, and maybe not. Stuff goes through a life cycle. Catches on, right thing for the right moment. Then later it's not the right thing for the right moment anymore, and we're grateful for the time that worked out well, and now we're on to the next thing. Could be that. Could crash and burn. Could find new life. But either way, where I think you're right is that when you encounter those little surprise moments that hit you out of nowhere where you realize, stuff has changed. This really is a different time and a different thing, and I feel a little bit of unsettled about that. I don't think that's an old man thing. I don't think that's a young man thing. I think we grieve the passage of time and the passage of moments, but it's a grief that hits us weird, and we don't necessarily know it's even happening. And I think that is at least part of what you're grappling with there. So you asked for feedback, and my feedback would be, take into account that you are a man who has a soft heart, and that, like all people, you grieve the passage of the time in which you live.
Yeah, I appreciate that. From a business/marketing perspective, one thing I think it's taught me is to be very, very intentional with the vibe that my thing has. Like if I want to go for, hey, it's just me asking questions, then keep it that way. Like, I've had a lot of people complain about the way I film things, for example. And
it's handheld and not motion stabilized all the time.
Yeah, it's not well lit all the time, but I found that I can get the authentic thoughts out of the person I'm talking to if I don't have lights on stands. If I set up the lights, they change because they're like, oh, this is an interview. But if it's just like, hey, we're just talking, tell me how that thing over there works, I get a totally different answer, and that vibe matters. I don't know. I just think it's important to, as a business owner, to think about the vibe of your business. And someone told me today, as a matter of fact, I just learned this. They said, oh goodness, what did they say? Culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah, I've heard that exact quote.
Who said that? I had to ask what that meant today, and somebody explained it to me. I appreciate the conversation. There's two things happening here. Number one, I'm grieving the passage of time.
I think so.
Thank you. That wasn't obvious to me. Number two, I'm aware, or perhaps hyper aware, of a vibe changing, and maybe it's time for that vibe to change in this specific business, and maybe I'm no longer the clientele that they are targeting, and that's okay. That's okay.
In every conversation we have, there's a moment where either literally physically or clearly conversationally, there is a, hey, it's time to land the plane kind of feeling. I've felt that here for the last couple of minutes, but I'm not quite ready because I think there is a third thing that's going on with you, and that is you're an engineer, and you look at things and you workshop solutions. And I think you and I have this in common. When we see businesses or people doing stuff that just doesn't make sense, oh, no. It's kind of that vicarious, wow, why would I want, I want you to succeed. And I can detect the pressures you're feeling. Oh no, I get why you're doing that. I see what you're trying to imitate. Sometimes it's easier for an
outsider to see that. Yeah.
Right. Oh, if I could see that about myself with the clarity I can see it in everybody else, I would rule the world and be making everyone's life better. But I just can't. It takes these moments of humiliation or epiphany or moments like, where I'm like, things are like that. And somebody's like, really? Yeah. So you think things are like this? And that's, yeah. And then they say, well, you are that man. Oh, it takes pain for me to see it with even a fraction of the clarity that I can see it in everybody else.
That's right.
And so I know that it's your empathy and your engineer brain that causes you to look at it and be like, if we could just turn these dials like this, your thing would work and you would thrive and succeed. And you're like the pigeon pushing the button because it gives you food, but now the food's not coming and you're still pushing the button because you're conditioned to think you have to. And my friend, You don't have to do that. Stop. And so I know you well enough to know that there's a gesture of mercy and compassion and a desire to help and to fix that is motivating your comments when I hear things like this from you. And that
Absolutely.
is very different. And I want to stick up for you here. That is very different than old man yelling at clouds and get off my lawn. It's not coming from that place with you.
Yeah.
And I want to vouch for you in that regard in front of the internet.
Well, thanks. Appreciate it. Because I could come across as old man. Yeah.
Yeah, it just isn't that. It isn't that.
I guess that
Anatomy
was
of
the
it's different.
purpose of bringing this up, is wondering if that's what was going on. So,
And maybe old man, old lady yelling at clouds, get off my lawn. I like the good old days better. Maybe it's just not emotionally knowing what to do with grieving the passage of time and also wanting to take the wisdom accumulated with time to try to help things work well or other people thrive. Maybe it's a little bit of that sense of, oh, dang, people before me figured this out and that lesson is being lost to history. And I'd really like to apply it to this clumsiness I'm watching unfold in this moment right in front of me. And I think it doesn't take very much to miss with that
Genius,
well-intentioned genius or observation and to just sound like things are stupid now. Music is dumb. Kids are idiots. And when it comes off like that, it's very off-putting. Obviously, nobody likes the person who chirps about all of that all the time.
You've nailed it. Because I remember working for this place and we built this hydraulic device and there was this shaft coming through a hole. We noticed that once we were sending these things to the field, suddenly they weren't fitting anymore. We went to the factory and were like, hey, we're making these things and they're not fitting. They've always fit. Why are they not fitting? I don't know. Like, well, are you using the gauge that we gave you to run around the shaft and make sure there was clearance between the shaft and the hole? No. Why would we do that? Well, I mean, that's the purpose of it, to see if it fits, if it's going to fit when we bolt it on the big thing. They said, oh, no, well, they gave us this thing to just run around this, but every time we did it, it always worked. We just stopped doing it because, it always worked. We didn't have to do it anymore. So those lessons lost to history, It was interesting. So sometimes things are done a certain way, but you weren't there when it was, inceptionized, and like you had to learn a hard lesson to make it that way. And then you kind of lose that to history. So I think that's interesting that you bring that up, that sometimes there's old things that were learned that can be easily forgotten. And I think maybe the vibe is one of those things. So thank you for protecting me from me.
No, that's an honest friendship conversation. I appreciate you bringing it up, and I appreciate you letting me offer a little pushback and some thoughts on it. Because again, it's really easy to see everybody else's stuff, just not my own.
You want to go get a sandwich?
Yeah, I do.
I know a place.
I think if we use that smarter everyday money, we can get most of your meal, maybe even all of yours and part of mine. That's a great week, man. Thanks.
Drinking water stuff. Drinking water.